Anish Bawalam Fásimór a chur river brief chaintúr new Cathaoirleach Éirígí Brian Leeson.
Again, I'd just like to thank both Maura and Bernice for coming down today and speaking at our Ard Fheis. Both are inspirational speakers, and the similarities between the dirty war in Mayo and the dirty war in the 6 counties are very noticeable. You'll have to forgive me some speaking notes. It's been a long week, so I'll belt on. We're tight enough for time. 3 years ago, when the so-called Celtic Tiger was alive and well, we founded Éirígí. The political class, the corporate media, the bankers, the property developers, the estate agents, and all of their associated cronies couldn't believe their luck. Their greed and their avarice knew no bounds. For them, there appeared to be no end to money and ever accumulating wealth. The great and the good were telling anyone that would listen that the boom would never end, that the 26 counties had somehow managed to create an economy of eternal growth, the never-ending boom without the bust. When we launched Éirígí as a campaigns group, we did so at the absolute peak of the Celtic Tiger. More than one person commented that it was a strange time to launch a socialist organisation, given that capitalism seemed to be working so well. But we knew then, as we know now, that capitalism can never provide for all of the people. They say you should judge a society by how it treats its young and its old. Back in 2006, in the good old days of the Celtic Tiger, 1 in 5 children in this country, north and south, lived in poverty or at risk of poverty. For those tens of thousands of children who regularly went to bed hungry at night, the Celtic Tiger was a myth only comparable with Santa and the Tooth Fairy. For the older generations, the story wasn't much better. For with age, invariably comes the need for greater levels of medical care. In the Celtic Tiger, however, it was hospital trolleys, infections, and ever-lengthening queues that greeted those who entered the hospitals of the 26 county state. So you might ask, if the Celtic Tiger didn't really provide for the young and it didn't provide for the old, well, it must have provided for those in between. It did all right. For the workers, it provided work and more work and more work. And with that work came debt. By the peak of the Celtic Tiger time, the average house in this city cost €420,000, 35 years of monthly repayments to the banks. Before this, the Celtic Tiger, this state had one of the lowest rates of personal debt in Europe. Now it ranks as one of the highest. So when we launched Éirígí, we knew that the so-called tiger was for many people a myth, an illusion that would never benefit them. And more than that, we knew that at some point, the illusion would be exposed to all. We all knew this, all socialists and all Republicans knew this, because we understand how the capitalist system works. Like a plague of locusts, it descends onto the lush green fields, wherever a profit is to be made. 15 years ago, this state offered the right mix of an educated workforce, cheap labour, low corporation tax, and a political culture which saw the interests of the career politician and the developer coincide. And so the host of locusts descended and devoured all around them. And like the locusts, they moved from field to field. International capitalism is already on its way to greener, cheaper labour fields. And what solution do all the main political parties have for the very real economic crisis facing the Irish people today? Accept lower wages, accept poorer working conditions, tighten on your belt, put on your best smile, and if we're lucky, the locusts will come back. In this regard, the establishment in the South is no different to the establishment in occupied Ireland, in Britain, in France, in Germany, or any other capitalist country. Through a hard-to-believe counter-logic, we are told that the cause of the illness is in fact the cure. As many of you are aware, Éirígí today adopted a policy paper outlining our view of the role that elections and elected institutions can play in Ireland's revolutionary struggle. In that paper, we are clearly stating our intention to move, when the conditions are right, into the electoral arena, to challenge the establishment parties on their own ground and to represent the interests of the working people. This decision marks another stage in Éirígí's development as a revolutionary organisation. We took this decision confident that we can learn the lessons of the past and avoid the errors made by others who have entered the elected institutions of our enemies. We believe the people of this country deserve better than Fianna Fáil, than Fine Gael, than Labour, than the SDLP and Sinn Féin. None of these parties offer a lasting solution to the problems faced by the 500,000 people who are now looking for employment, or for the tens of thousands of people waiting on the social housing lists, or for the tens of thousands of young families burdened with 30 years of debt to the banks that we have recently bailed out, or to all those children who go to bed hungry at night. We all deserve better than an economy based upon a repeated cycle of shop till you drop, followed by tighten your belts, followed by shop till you drop. We all deserve better. We need an economy that is structured and organised for the benefit of all and not just a privileged elite. We need an economy based upon sensible, long-term, sustainable planning and not the law of the jungle. We need an economy where the wealth and the wealth-producing resources are owned and controlled by the people in the interest of the people and not by a business class. We need an economy that works in harmony with our environment and not against it. In short, we need an economy based upon the principles of socialism and not capitalism. To achieve this end, we need a political party that is willing to challenge the status quo on all fronts and in all forums, including their elected institutions. If at some point in the future Éirígí enters such elected institutions, we know we cannot change them. All we seek to do is to expose them for the sham that they are. We know that revolutionary change can only come from events on the street and in the workplace, and not from elected institutions of the capitalist state. For this reason, we will ensure that Éirígí will continue and escalate its campaign activities and work within the community and the workplace to build meaningful alternatives to the structures provided by the state. And in so much as Ireland needs a new party to represent the interests of the working class, it also needs a party to oppose the ongoing occupation of the 6 counties. In adopting its election policy today, Éirígí has confirmed that no Éirígí member will ever participate in the occupation parliaments based in Westminster or Stormont. To participate in either of these institutions could only serve to prolong British rule in Ireland. The sooner that all of those who purport to serve the interests of Ireland recognise this fact, the better. Resistance to British rule in Ireland has to be built from the bottom up, street by street, village by village, town by town and city by city. Last November, Éirígí took the lead in organising opposition to the parading of the RIR through Belfast. Through our actions, we forced every political party and the forces of the state to mobilise. Those who organised that protest had hoped that a couple of hundred British soldiers would march through Belfast without any impediment, and that the great and the good could come out and wave their flags and cheer them on. We made sure that that did not happen. Through our actions, a series of counter demonstrations were organised. The entire militia of the British loyalist state was mobilised, including their PSNI or UC, loyalist paramilitaries, the unionist parties, etc. And while the British state did succeed in getting their soldiers to march through Belfast, it was far from a normal event. Later on this year, in June, the British Belfast City Council have again decided to try and normalise Belfast's streets, this time with the so-called Armed Forces Day on the 27th of June. And today we are announcing that Éirígí will be opposing that event in the same colourful and proactive way that we oppose the RIR parades. So, in closing, I'd like to congratulate you all on our successful Ard Fheis in developing our position on elections and elected institutions in such a camaraderie way. We have succeeded where many have failed before us. For that, we should be very proud of ourselves and hope that it bodes well for the future. We walk out of here today having moved a significant difference closer to opening up another front in our struggle. We walk out of here today a step closer to challenging our opponents on their own ground, exposing their arguments putting forward realistic alternatives. And finally, we walk out of here one small step closer to achieving our ultimate objective, that of a democratic socialist republic. Curve Maigah.